The room changes the second something breaks. A pipe bursts, a laptop dies before a deadline, a car refuses to start. Someone is crying, someone is blaming, someone is already imagining the worst. And then there is that one person. They go quiet, not frozen, not detached. Quiet in the way a lock becomes quiet just before it clicks open. Their eyes move over the problem. They ask two questions. They touch one thing, then another. Within minutes, everyone else begins breathing normally because this person has entered the room. People call them capable, reliable, calm under pressure, the one who always knows what to do. But there is a question almost no one asks. What happens inside a person who has built their entire identity around never being the one who needs saving? Because some people know how to fix everything for a beautiful reason. They fell in love with understanding how the world works. And some know how to fix everything because, at some point, helplessness became too dangerous to tolerate. From the outside, both look like competence. Inside, one feels like curiosity, the other feels like survival. That difference changes everything. The ability to fix things is usually explained as experience. They have seen more, learned more, broken more, repaired more. What separates them is not certainty. It is their relationship with uncertainty. The fixer does not need proof that the problem can be solved before beginning. They treat not knowing as temporary. That may be the most important belief hidden beneath competence. A problem is not a verdict. It is a system whose logic has not been found yet. This is the central metaphor. For the fixer, a broken thing is not a wall. It is a locked mechanism. Other people see chaos. The fixer sees clues. They move backward through cause and effect until the mystery becomes smaller. This does not mean they feel no stress. It means stress becomes organized into questions. Their nervous system converts uncertainty into investigation. That conversion is rarely automatic at birth. It is built through moments when effort changed an outcome. The event may be tiny, but the psychological effect is large. The child learns that the world is not only something that happens to them, it is something their actions can enter and alter. Each successful interaction becomes evidence, not evidence that everything will work, but evidence that trying has consequences. Over time, the person develops a quiet expectation. I may not know what to do yet, but I can probably discover the next step. That belief changes how long they remain with difficulty. The person who believes action matters experiments longer. Failure provides information rather than identity. A wrong attempt says, "not this." It does not immediately say, "not me." This is why many fixers appear calm even when they are improvising. Their confidence is not a guarantee of success. It is permission to continue without a guarantee. The world often mistakes this for fearlessness. It is closer to tolerance. They can remain inside the uncomfortable space between broken and solved without demanding immediate reassurance. Most people want uncertainty to end quickly. If the answer does not appear, anxiety begins inventing one. The fixer resists that emotional rush toward conclusion. They separate what is known from what is feared. The engine does not start. That is known. The engine is destroyed. That is interpretation. The distinction creates room to act. But competence has more than one origin. Sometimes a parent gave the child agency. The lesson became, "I can struggle without being abandoned." This produces a flexible kind of competence. The person can attempt, fail, ask, learn, and try again without shame. But another child reached competence through the opposite path. No one came. The adult was absent, overwhelmed, unreliable, or dangerous. Problems still appeared, so the child learned to solve them alone. The event was chaos. The past experience was that help could not be trusted. The internal belief became, if I do not take control, no one will. The protective reaction was hypercompetence. The external behavior became the person everyone depends on. The result can look impressive. It can also hide a nervous system that experiences every unsolved problem as a threat. This is where the flattering image of the fixer begins to crack. The person may not be fixing because they feel powerful. They may be fixing because being unable to fix feels unbearable. Even another person's unfinished task creates tension in their body. Until the situation changes, the fixer cannot fully relax. This creates the deeper metaphor. The problem becomes a silent judge. If it remains broken, the person feels broken beside it. Repair is no longer only practical, it restores identity. "I solved it" secretly means, "I am safe again." That is why letting someone else handle the problem can feel so difficult. But speed can become an excuse for never tolerating dependence, uncertainty, or another person's imperfect method. Their competence begins crowding everyone else out. The fixer becomes indispensable, then resents being needed for everything. This is one of the most painful paradoxes in their psychology. They complain that no one helps, while unconsciously controlling every doorway through which help could enter. The defense creates the burden it later hates. There is also an emotional version of fixing. The advice may be intelligent. It may also be a way to end the discomfort of witnessing something that cannot be repaired quickly. Emotion does not always obey cause and effect. For the fixer, this can feel maddening. Their strongest form of love is action. They reduce pain by moving reality. When reality cannot be moved, they may feel useless. So they offer solutions not because they do not care, but because caring without action feels like standing beside a fire with empty hands. Listening without changing anything can feel passive, almost negligent. They have spent a lifetime equating care with intervention. To do nothing while someone hurts feels cruel. But emotional presence is not nothing. It simply produces no immediate visible repair. This is where their competence meets its limit. Not every broken feeling is a mechanism waiting to be restored. Some experiences need to be carried before they can be understood. The genuinely curious fixer responds differently. They are fascinated by the gap between not working and working. They can say, "I don't know," without losing status inside themselves. When a solution fails, curiosity survives. This is the healthier architecture of competence. Identity is attached to learning, not constant success. The compulsive fixer has a more fragile relationship with failure. The problem is no longer external. It has crossed into self-worth. They are not simply unable to repair the machine. They feel exposed as the person who was supposed to know. That is the midpoint reversal. People who fix everything are not always the least afraid of being helpless. Some are the most afraid. Their power developed around a vow the nervous system made long ago. I will never stand there unable to act again. That vow can build an extraordinary life, but it can also make rest feel dangerous. Rest means not producing value. Receiving means admitting a need. Delegating means accepting uncertainty. The person knows how to carry weight, but not how to stand without holding something. Their usefulness becomes both gift and prison. The world rewards this pattern. Few people notice that the fixer is rarely asked what it costs them to remain so available. Even fewer notice when help becomes the only socially acceptable way for them to receive connection. Being needed guarantees proximity without requiring vulnerability. The solution becomes a bridge into relationships. People invite their competence, and the fixer arrives with the rest of themselves hidden behind it. This can produce a quiet fear. Would anyone still want me in the room if nothing were broken? The question is rarely conscious. It appears as overwork, unsolicited help, difficulty saying no, or a strange emptiness after a crisis ends. Chaos gives the fixer a clear identity. Peace asks them to exist without function. That can be harder than the emergency. Yet the ability to fix things remains psychologically powerful because it teaches an important relationship with reality. Broken is not always permanent. Confusion is not proof of incapacity. Not knowing can be a stage rather than an identity. A person who has repaired enough things begins to trust process more than panic. They understand that answers often arrive after contact. This belief can protect a person from despair. It transforms the world from a collection of verdicts into a field of possible interventions. But the strongest fixer is not the person who controls every outcome. It is the person whose identity can survive the moments when no solution is available. That distinction separates competence from compulsion. Competence says, "I can engage with this." Compulsion says, "I must solve this or I am unsafe." One creates flexibility, the other creates captivity. Return to the room from the beginning. The pipe has stopped leaking, the laptop is running, the car starts. Everyone exhales and thanks the person who knew what to do. They shrug and say, "It was nothing," but it was not nothing. The repair restored more than the object. But later, when everyone leaves, the fixer notices something in their own life that cannot be tightened, restarted, replaced, or reasoned into working. And for a moment, the person who can fix everything must face the one condition they spent years avoiding. Not every problem is waiting for their solution. Sometimes the deeper repair begins when they can remain in the room without becoming the tool. Their real strength was never that nothing could defeat them. It was that uncertainty did not automatically erase them. The person who knows how to fix everything is not defined by always having the answer. They are defined by the belief that not having the answer is not the end. And the final thing they may need to learn is that this can be true even when the broken thing is not theirs to carry.